Welcome to the Varsity Voices podcast, where we bring you the inside scoop on the Chicago Catholic League football. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and like us on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can also find us on X at @varsity_voices1. We're on Instagram as well at _varsity voices. And Facebook at the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Football, and now on YouTube as well. If you want to weigh in on anything that we talk about, leave a comment or email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. I'm Joe Frevaletti, one of your hosts, and here with me is your other host, Dan Frevaletti. Dan, today we have another preseason special episode of From the Coach's Office, and this time we had the chance to, or you had the chance to catch up with the head coach for Marian Catholic, Nick Lopez. But before we get to that, I was listening to the interview, and I was upset that you didn't ask one question to Coach Lopez, and because it's, as you know, it was a life-changing event for me, right? So
I know where you're going.
You didn't ask him about the press box and the stairs up to the press box. Why didn't you do that?
You know, I think out of fear, I have blocked it. It's a mental block. You know, for those people who have been there and done that, they know exactly what I'm talking about. For those who haven't, Marian Catholic and Joe, I think they've replaced it. I think the last time I was there,
did they?
Maybe last year,
yeah,
or 2 years ago, they said we're replacing it. It is how would you describe it? Death defying.
It's somewhat death defying trek up homemade stairs to a press box that is disconnected from the rest of the stadium. So it's like you're walking up into space and not knowing where you're going to end up. And it is an eerie feeling. And, you know, I had difficulty with it. I never have had any problem with that in my entire life. I get there, I start walking up those stairs, and boom, I stop. Like, I can't take another step. I had to go back down. You know, I had to call up to, it was when I was broadcasting. I had to call up to my broadcast partner in the booth and say, you got to come down and get me. I can't get up these stairs.
Did he carry you up? Did he carry you up like a baby?
No, you know how I actually got up? He came down, and I said, I'm going to follow you up. I said, my nose is going to be right up your ass, just so you know. He was like, that's fine. And sure enough, that was the only way I could get up. I mean, if I could have climbed into his pants, I would have to get up there. But that's how close I was. And I made it up.
Yeah. My last experience, and I used to think you were kidding about it when you talked about it, and I had never had the chance to go up there. The one time I did, my last year coaching, on the varsity, I was in the press box, and it was sleeting, and the stairs. I don't know if you describe the stairs. Not only are they, I don't know if they're rickety. They're almost straight up.
Yes, they're not rickety. They're almost straight up, and what do you call that? The distance between the stairs is probably 1.5 to 2 times what is normal.
Right.
And it's completely open. So as you're stepping up, you can see through the stairs out into nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you take a turn, right, for the last 5, and then you go up through the bottom of the press box, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And it's not until your head peeks through the bottom of that press box that you feel some relief. But you really don't, because the only thing you can think about the entire game is how in the hell am I going to get down and out of this press box? And I became a believer after that trip. I carried the huddle equipment down from that press box during its sleet, and I thought, this is it. This is how I'm going to go.
Yeah.
But the guys who were there, who do it every week, the guys at Marian Catholic, they were up and down 3 and 4 times while I was slowly making my way down. And I thought I remember one of the guys telling me that this is the last year you'll have to do this. They're replacing this entire press box next year, so it's worth the trip. The coach is going to give us another reason to make a trip outside of seeing the field and the team, but it'd be worth a trip just to go back and look and see the new press box and see how nice and easy we could walk up the stairs into the press box, maybe having a conversation, not in a full flop sweat, thinking
Yeah.
this is how my life ends, going up and down the Marian Catholic press box.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say it was life altering for me, because it absolutely was, because up until that point, I never had an issue with heights. I loved going up, loved roller coasters, climbing some hill or mountain didn't bother me at all. But whatever happened to me on those stairs that first time,
It is stuck.
Now I can't do heights at all. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I blame it on that, because that's
Yeah.
the first time it happened. So
What
yeah.
year do you think are we looking? 2012? Is that how long ago that was?
2012. Yeah, probably something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I was really hoping you'd ask Coach Lopez about the stairs and the press box,
Yeah.
and whether they had changed it or not, and maybe giving them a little twist of the knife a little bit, that it ruined my the rest of my life as far as being able to go up heights.
Like I said, I think I've mentally blocked it. I have mentally blocked it, and now that we've opened it up again, I probably won't sleep tonight. So thinking
Right,
about that,
right.
yeah, I'm going to have one of those dreams, one of those falling dreams out of the
Yeah.
press box at Marian Catholic.
Well, we've got a great interview you did with Coach Lopez. One of the things, and as I listened to it, Dan, was, he has a lot of good things to say about his football program, his football players, his expectations and those kinds of things. But, what I was thinking about was how many, if we were to count in the Chicago Catholic League, how many coaches are there that are at their alma maters, right? Or, come back to the Chicago Catholic League, maybe not coaching at the team that they were at before or that they played at, but there seems to be more and more of that happening.
Yeah, there's definitely a draw, and I mean, out of the first, I don't know how many interviews we've done, 7 interviews, whatever it is. I think we've had 3 alums. So you've got, the Lopez and
Pat New,
and
although we haven't put that one out yet.
and Luke Mertens, which I think also is at St. Pat's. So, and it's I think it's a special feeling for those guys. I think to coach in the league, number one is which we've talked about, a lot, is special, but obviously there's some sort of draw, and whether it's nostalgia, whatever it might be, glory days, but I think they want to have a hand in the success of their alma mater, and I think it gives them a special sense of pride if they can do it at that where they went to high school. And so, you definitely get that sense. I feel like I've asked them all about it. My takeaway from the interview also had to do with Coach Dave Matteo, the legend there at Marian Catholic. Passed away a few years ago, but just a great guy, and one of the opposing coaches who you got to know, even, as a player from my playing days to coaching. He remembered you. At least he made a point to make it seem like he remembered you, and he was always great to us. So that was pretty special. I wanted to make sure I asked him about that. So because he played for Coach Matteo when Nick was on the team.
Yeah, I think that makes a that makes a difference for him in what he's doing. You can kind of hear it in the interview and some of his answers. He leans into having played for Coach Matteo and what that means to him.
Yeah.
He leans into it being his alma mater, right, and him having played there and graduated there. So I think he probably brings that to his program as well, right, and to his players. And that's important. Really to kind of lean into that history, lean into some of the former players and former stars and where they've moved on to and what they're doing today. I think you'll hear that in some of the interview with Coach Lopez.
Yeah, they've got a great history. They from state finalists to a lot of players in the NFL to great coaches. Coach Holisek was a player there. I think coached there for maybe a while, and then before going to Loyola, and where he obviously had an amazing run. So they have no shortage of alumni that have gone on to great things in football and beyond.
Yep, great. All right, so let's get to the interview with Coach Lopez. I think there we are. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of The Varsity Voices. This is a special edition from the coach's office. I'm Dan Frevaletti, and joining me today is the head coach of the Marian Catholic Spartans, Nick Lopez. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pretty cool experience here.
Good. Well, I have to start this interview with an apology. In our first episode, nerves got the best of me. Like I've said, we're not pros. And I mentioned Marian Catholic, and I said it was in Calumet City. I know Marian Catholic is a proud resident of Chicago Heights, so let me first off apologize. And I wish I could say it would be my last mistake, but I know that's wrong.
Well, apology accepted, but it's not too far away, so
right.
We can accept that.
I was in the general area, so so you're year 3 into the program. I did a quick review of the roster and all conference players from last year, and you graduated a lot of players who did a lot for the program, and you have other important pieces to fill. How have the players who are coming back, responded to filling those needs, maybe not only on but off the field?
Yeah, it was tough losing all those guys last year. We had a very senior laden class and an experienced class, and it's always tough losing them. But when you got 11, we had 11 out of 18 of them sign a national letter of intent to go on and play college football. So that was very promising. So I think when the guys saw that, I think the guys, our junior class and our sophomore class, have really stepped up and said, "Hey, this could be me." So the junior, some of our juniors took lead in the off season and said, "Hey, let's go. We don't need to take a step back. Let's keep moving forward and get this thing where it needs to be."
Excellent. Well, last year, you win your division, you make it to round 2 of the Prep Bowl playoffs, but we're likely one win away during the regular season to make the IHSA playoffs. Is that something you talk about in the off season with the players, or is it, hey, last year's last year, we're moving forward with this year?
Well, you got to use some of those things as a teachable moment, and we got to learn from those things and learn from some of the mistakes that we had in those games. But it's always there, and we talk about it, but it's also about, how can we get past those points and make the necessary plays to become a playoff team.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you played one of the great games in the state last year against Homewood Flossmoor. Just exciting, a lot of points. I see you host them week 2 this year. I mentioned in one of the episodes, you're 4 miles apart. What makes that such a good rivalry?
Yeah, it's such a unique rivalry. Right before I got to school there, they used to play 'em. I graduated in 2000 from Marian, so it's just like up until that 96 when I got there, they were playing them almost every year. And then I didn't have the opportunity to do that, so it was kind of lost for a little bit. But then you see the rivalry that we have with them during the Thanksgiving tournament with basketball. So it was, it was just, I think it was time to kind of get the communities back together and try to build this thing back up.
Well, kudos, because I know that's not easy, and in the Catholic League, the schedule that you play is really tough. To go out and make sure that rivalry stays alive, I give you guys a lot of props for that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is too is just they're always a very solid football program, um, you know, and we want to make sure that we are playing some of the best teams in the area to prepare us for the grueling schedule in the Catholic League.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So so now you're in the midst of summer practices. We talked a little bit about you having to replace a lot of people and the how the sophomores and juniors have responded. Do you have a feel, for your team as far as, maybe which side of the ball is going to lead the team this year? Is it going to be, similar to what we've seen, or are there any changes that you see from this group?
I mean, there are going to be some changes, but I think on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to see, we're going to have a lot of speed out there and a lot of toughness that is going to go ahead and try to hopefully make up for the experience that we had last year on the defense end. But I think the offense, I think we're just going to keep building off where we left off from last year and try to get the passing game to get it going a little bit better this year and continue our successful running game.
Excellent. And we mentioned those classes and some new faces. Who should we be on the lookout for this year, from a player perspective? Who's someone that we might be talking about at the end of the year that maybe we don't know today?
Yeah, I mean, we got our senior defensive back who just recently committed to Indiana State, Zach Coleman. Ended up starting for us by the end of the year last year. Really talented kid, a lot of speed, great in coverage. We got our middle linebacker back, Ronnie Gordon. I think this is one of the guys who is he's going to be he's going to be a big piece of what we do defensively, and he was last year. I mean, he led the team in tackles last year. This guy is going to be someone to reckon with. And then we got just some our defensive ends. Joaquin Mendez is returning. He led the team in sacks the past 2 seasons. And we got a junior coming up is Gavin Neal, who is going to be a special player for us. So and then in offense, I think we got some key backs. We're looking at Joey Bransky, a quarterback who led us to a couple wins last year. There's still running backs. Kyle Scott, he stepped in last year when needed and did very well. But our offensive line, we're kind of young across the front offensively. But I'm looking for big seasons out of Isaac Zakovic and Jonathan Dortch.
Excellent. Well, that's good. That's a lot of promise there, and looks like things are going to be in order there. So that's always good to hear. Kind of switching gears a little bit. One of the best parts, from my coaching career of going to Marian Catholic has always been the band. To the point of distraction and just how good they were at halftime and how great they sounded. Do the players appreciate that they have this unique band that does such a great job? Do they understand how cool that is?
I think once you go to other schools and you hear their band, man, I'm not, we just have an exceptional band. And once you hear that national anthem, it is kind of spine chilling. The way they are to come together and and it stems from there, and then their halftime performance, how they rush the field and everything. It's kind of unique.
Yeah,
Kind of
it's one
almost
of the
like in a
cooler
college.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely got a college feel to it at halftime for sure. That's great, and you're an alum of the program, and I always like that when alums come back to coach. I think there's something special about that. But does it add any self-imposed? Do you have any self-imposed pressure? Do you feel like I've got to get this thing where I want it to be?
I do. I mean, but I think that's all coaches. We always want to just, be almost better than we are at all times, and just try to get better. But, you have pride especially when you go to the school and you played there and you played for such a legendary coach as Dave Matteo was. And, but I just want to have that same effect, really, that Coach Matteo had on me and, establishing those great relationships and, almost being that mentor for a lifetime. And the guys can come back to, and we can always have these good conversations, bad conversations, but, enjoy our time together. That's what I'm really looking forward to. And I think that just comes, with the territory.
Sure. Well, you mentioned Coach Matteo, and he was a legend and a great guy. I mentioned that we had a chance to talk. He was the coach at Marian Catholic when I played against them, and always very gracious after games and when you'd see him around, and even when we were coaching. Um, Sounds like he was a great person to his players. You mentioned his influence. How much influence, whether it's how you run your program or even offense and defense, how much influence does Coach Matteo have on you and the program?
I mean, I think I got the best compliment. I think it was my first year when we played Bloom Township. Um, and I coached with Tony Palumbi for a long time.
Sure.
We were across the sideline from each other, and he came to me after the game and goes, "Gosh darn it, you can see a lot of Dave Matteo in this team." So it's just kind of one of those things that was just so gratifying. Especially being in your first season, and it's just like, okay, so I try to take, whatever he gave to me, I try to take in and try to, implement it into the program and like just keep giving to these kids what he gave to us.
That's great. Well, along those lines, when I was setting up this interview, um, I noticed that on your signature, there's a tagline and it says teaching scholars with a soul. And it really hit me. I thought it was very cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, that's our school model, and it's just like, it's just more, we're trying to teach the whole person, the whole mind, body, and soul, and just find a way to reach deep down inside while bringing the academics and the sports and athletics out of them but still having that place for, God inside of all of us too.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time. I've got one more question for you. So, from all accounts that I've read, you've always been in the area. You mentioned you were at Bloom before coming back to Marian Catholic. If Varsity Voices ever gets to come to a game or cover a practice, where is the best place to eat in the area for us to go afterward?
Oh man,
Give me a couple of your favorites.
I tell you what, you can't be. If you're in the area, you always got to stop across the street and go to Zarlingo's. Italian ice, it's probably the best Italian ice that you'll ever have. Um, they have this thing. It's called an Arctic Cooler. That's a mixed soft serve ice cream with Italian ice, and you can enjoy it for the ride home. But I mean,
Perfect.
there is all types, whatever type of food you want within a 5 mile radius, you'll be able to get. Get around here. You got your local Greasy Spoon where you can go to Marnell's, where you can get whatever you want there. You can go and get some tacos right down the street, at the local gas station right at the end of the block on Ashland and 30. I mean, we're spoiled around here, so but those are kind of some of the staples that we have around here. But definitely gotta stop by Zarlingo's and take that for the road trip home.
Perfect. I try to take a couple notes during all these interviews, but I'm feverishly writing all these places down that I can stop at. You can see where my mind goes. Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time. This was great. It was good to chat with you. I wish you all the best on the upcoming season, and we really appreciate your support at Varsity Voices.
No, I thank you. This is a unique opportunity, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And the support you guys are giving back to the Catholic League is something special because we all know how special it is for all of us who played in it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that was Coach Nick Lopez from Marian Catholic. Dan, another excellent interview.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When did we make a trip? I really with some hot weather right now, and I can't stop thinking about Zarlingos. I really want to go try it.
Well, I've started planning it out already, right? I mean, the other place he mentioned was Marnell's, which I looked up the menu. So they've got only about 6 things on their menu. They've got a double bacon cheeseburger.
Ding.
They have a double. What's that?
Ding. Yes. Good.
Ding.
I'll take one.
Or a double cheeseburger.
Oh yeah. Okay. Even better.
They've got a chili dog or a cheese dog. And then I think they have 2 kinds of pitas, but I scroll right by the pitas. Right? So I'm thinking we go out there for a game. We stop at Marnell's, right? We both get our double bacon cheeseburgers, maybe a chili dog on the side.
Yeah.
And then then we go to the game.
Right.
Watch a game. Then as we're heading home, we go to the drive-thru at Zarlingos and get the combination soft serve Italian ice for the ride home.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, we got to stay for the band. Whatever the band's doing, we got to stay for because they're awesome.
Do they play at the end or just halftime?
I don't know. I know a story from when I was a player. Our quarterback got caught at halftime, standing away from the team meetings, watching the band. And when the coach came up to him and asked him, he said, "Coach, Marian Catholic, this is a world-class band. You can't miss this." It's pretty funny. We still laugh about that story, but I don't know if they go after, but they are definitely part of the show when you go to Marian Catholic for a game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll have to plan that some kind of road trip. We'll look at their schedule, one of the games, and that'll be one of our games of the week that we can report right from the game.
Yeah, we can report from Zarlingos. Oh no, that's a drive-through, right?
Well, I think it has a drive-thru.
Okay. All right.
But, sure, we can sit in the parking lot and
right. We might want 2 things.
Right. So Coach Lopez, we talked a little bit about him beforehand, and as a graduate of Marian in 2000, he's come back to coach the alma mater. There's probably a lot of things that go into that, as you kind of alluded to in some of your questions with him. But, one of the things I took away from that was, when he was rattling off, you asked a question about, what kind of, other than the, say, returning all conference players, who else should we be on the lookout for? And boy, did he rattle off some defensive players.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, right off the top of his head, that's always a good sign, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking Marian Catholic, strong defense this year, right?
That was kind of the impression I got too, and they've got a quarterback with some experience. They've got to replace. They've got a running back with some experience, but they lose Tyler Lofton, to the transfer. I don't know if you can call it transfer portal in high school. I don't think it's officially a portal.
Give it three years, and it'll be a transfer portal.
Right. Full podcast segment on transferring at some point in the future. So He's a stud. Going to Illinois State, just committed. Transferred to Brother Rice. So within the conference, it's got to sting. It just no two ways about it. And I have I don't begrudge anyone doing what they think is best for them. But he is a player that I remember seeing as a freshman playing on the sophomore level, and just you knew instantly this is a different cat. He did not go down. He's like the great thing about some running backs, he has got a low center of gravity, so he's one of those guys you hit and hit and hit, and he bounces, and then when you think, all right, I'm just going to try and get him down, he'll run you over. So they've got a tough job in replacing him, but it sounds like they've got people in place that they are really confident in. I have no doubt they always come up with players that can carry the ball, and I don't think this year will be any different. So, but it'll be interesting to watch just how they look offensively. It sounds like the majority of their returnees are on the defensive side of the ball. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. And the division is getting really interesting, the Red Division, and it's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, well, he said we want to continue our successful running game, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're known for. Right, but he also mentioned we want to work on our passing game, make it better. So, I kind of took that as a nod to, we don't have Tyler Lofton anymore, so we're going to have to be a little more,
balanced,
not just run heavy.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see how that works out over the course of the year. Their quarterback is returning. Right, so
yeah,
he's got some experience. We'll see if he can throw the ball.
Yeah. And they are when they mention it, it's always interesting in high school football. There are dominant running teams every year. You watch the state finals games, and you've got teams that run 90% of the time, but the downside of that is, if you get behind, you really find yourself scrambling, and maybe some schools can have the patience, but boy, if you've got a sound passing game, it just makes you that much tougher to defend, and it puts you in a better position if you go down a score or two.
Yeah, for sure. They're, the most successful teams, I think, have that balance, right? They can run, they can pass, at least in today's high school football,
Getting that way for sure. More and more complex passing games up and down. Some traditional schools, we see it in the conference. Joliet Catholic jumps to the top of my mind, as a team that has developed a passing game, while keeping that traditional power running game.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, another great interview, Dan. We're going to have more for you. So as we move on to to our other episodes, you're going to hear more from other coaches within the Chicago Catholic League. That's it for this special episode of From the Coach's Office, and thanks for being here and listening. Make sure you tune in for our next episode, where we'll bring you another kind of preseason edition of From the Coach's Office episode. Subscribe, follow, or like us on wherever you're listening from, where you get your favorite podcasts. Don't forget we're on X at varsity_voices1, Instagram at _varsity voices, Facebook at the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Football, and we're on YouTube as well. You can also email us any comments, questions, varsityvoices312@gmail.com. Make sure you come back and tune in for our next episode.